This might seem a little bit harsh, but also this is tremendous parenting. And shout out to Mick Jagger, okay? Like every day that I record, I stare off to a giant Rolling Stones signed, matted, autographed thing that I have hanging up there on the wall. It's fantastic. I love the Stones. I love the Stones immeasurably. They even have a new video, a new song that's out there. A new song, okay? There's 3 members. It's still Keith and Mick that are still around, so everybody else is kind of superfluous. But one of the founding members, just kicked the bucket last year, and Charlie Watts, rest in peace, of course, one of the most consistent members of the band that caused zero trouble. But as long as Mick and Keith want to go out on the stroll, they're going to pull and pack arenas and stadiums. Whatever the hell they want to go do, they can go ahead and accomplish. Like the Rolling Stones brand can go ahead and print money in perpetuity and will continue to do as much long after everybody's gone. But we also got to reconcile with, the fact that even with the amount of preemptive embalming that Mick and Keith and everybody else imbibed in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and likely 2020s, they're probably getting to the end of the run. I'm not wishing this on anybody. Of course not. It's going to be a horrific day whenever either of them kicks the bucket, but they're both on the wrong side of their late 70s. Hell, I think Mick's even pushing 80 at this point in time, and it's a miracle. It's a miracle that they've lasted that long, and I wouldn't trade any of them for the world. Like Angry, the new song that they just put out, it's pretty fucking good, okay? I would highly recommend it. And you know what? Hey, maybe over on Rumble at some point in time, we can go ahead and run it back. So I also think that, hey, just the video itself is a pretty good encapsulation of what the modern music industry needs now more than ever. But I'm getting ahead of myself at this point in time. We got the headline right here. The Mick Jagger is not going to be just handing over his $500 million. I didn't realize he was worth that much, but kind of makes sense, all things considered. His 8 kids don't need the $500 million fortune. I think that's great, okay? Because again, you're going to be a child. Your father is going to be Mick Jagger. If you can't become a success, if you can't get your foot in the door, if you aren't already going to be getting enough of a leg up in your chosen vocation, and you can't be a success off the back of that, you failed. You catastrophically failed, because I would imagine that the children of Mick Jagger, at least the ones that he recognizes, because, well, let's be honest, he's also been out there rocking and rolling and laying it down for, 60 years. Oofta. They don't need any financial endowment. They probably went to the best schools, had the best upbringing. If you were going to be a failure off of that, no amount of money was going to end up catapulting you into success. Get it out the dirt like your old man did. I think that this is fantastic. Legendary rocker Mick Jagger may be swimming in millions thanks to the Stones, but he most likely won't be sharing his wealth with his 8 kids. He did just turn 80 this year, okay? Hinted to the Wall Street Journal in a recent profile that he doesn't want to sell the band's post-1971 music inventory. Yeah, because I think, and yeah, that's unfortunate that everything from the 60s is owned, I think, Columbia, or whoever ends up owning that legendary part where, they recorded, just about all of their most famous work was kind of in the 60s as well, which is kind of amazing to think about it. Satisfaction, obviously. Like Sympathy was also in the 60s as well. But no, good. Hang on to that shit. Jagger teased that the money should go to a charity instead of his offspring. Yeah, I guess, but okay. Children don't need $500 million to live well. Come on. Exactly. He joked in the publication. For him, it's just kind of a scoreboard. Where it's like, yeah, I got $500 million. Okay, is there anybody else that's out there right now? We know all of the bad decision making. Who in today's day and age could even come close to the legacy of the Stones? Like a modern act that's out there right now building up their repertoire. Nobody even comes close. But anyways, he went on, maybe do some good in the world. Yeah, exactly. I think that Keith and Ron, at least the guys that are still in the band specifically, the stories that I've heard about them, they seem pretty based. Mick is kind of still that fucking flighty hippie of the 60s and 70s where he's just trying to do good for the world. Christ almighty, he still did do that cringe music video with Dave Grohl about how everybody should be doing well during the pandemic and get the jab. It's like, oh my God, you're really testing my appreciation for your work. But then again, I can also separate the music or the art from the artist. So yeah, you might be a fucking walking cringe magnet, but you're still Mick fucking Jagger at the end of the day. You're obviously going to have a whole lot of leeway, okay? Jagger's oldest child is daughter Karis, 52, whom he welcomed with Marsha Hunt in 1970. In 71, he also wed ex-wife Bianca Jagger and had daughter Jade and she's 51. Jagger shares 4 children with ex-wife Jerry Hall, whom he married from 1990, great year, to 97. Daughters Elizabeth, Georgia May, and sons, oh, thank God he does have a son or two, James and Gabriel. He and model Luciana Mormont Jimenez welcomed son Lucas, 24, in 1999. His youngest child, son Devereaux, with girlfriend Melanie Hamrick, arrived in 2016. That's hilarious. Elsewhere in the interview, the English singer revealed how he hopes the Stones' legacy will continue on long after he's gone. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a certainty, okay? Like, it's no bit of hyperbole to say that they're the most famous rock and roll band, probably the most famous musical act of all time. If not, like, top 3. Maybe Elvis, maybe Michael Jackson. Like, you could throw them all in the pool together. You say the Beatles, I want to kick you in the nuts intrinsically. Because nobody's had the longevity. Nobody's had the longevity and been as good for as long as the Stones have been. Like, all the way back when they were first starting. Okay, everybody knows the exploits of the 60s. Everybody knows the exploits of the 70s, 80s. And even still, one of my favorite Stones albums came out in 2006. A Bigger Bang is fucking great, by the way. And now with that single Angry that just came out, they're going to be putting out a brand new album. Like, they did a couple of covers, and I didn't think it was all that great. It's a Blue album. I have it over here in some form or fashion, but I'm definitely going to be checking out the new album. That's 1,000% for sure. Beast of Burden came out in the 90s, for Christ's sakes. Come on. Anyways, you can have a posthumous business now, can't you? You can have a posthumous tour. Yes, he noted. The technology has really moved on since the ABBA thing. The Voyage virtual show. Swedish pop band ABBA famously reunited in 2021 after 40-year hiatus to release their Voyage virtual tour and an accompanying album. Jagger also discussed how the music sector of Hollywood has transformed over the decades and how rock and roll was still in its infant state. And yeah, very much back then when he started out in the early 60s, and how it's kind of virtually dead at this point in time, which is kind of sad, overtaken by just a bunch of talentless broads. Anyways, the industry was so nascent, it didn't have the support of the amount of people that are on tap to be able to advise you as they do now. Sounds nothing like them, but I needed to get at least a little bit of a British accent. She's the Boss singer added, but you know, it still happens. I mean, look what happened to Taylor Swift. Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. Is that the contemporary? Is that the one that we want to go with? A bitch who can only pull half of the audience at Rock in Rio that Iron fucking Maiden could? Like, you take a look at the stadium acts that are out there right now. A lot of them are bands that were formed in the 70s and 80s, if we're going to keep it a buck. But yeah, maybe Taylor Swift is the corollary for today's day and age. And if that's the case, yeah, I would put anybody else's discography against hers in 10, 15 years times. Who's going to have more staying power? The Stones or Taylor Swift? Taylor Swift or Metallica? Taylor Swift or Maiden? She might be able to defeat everything post the millennium when it comes to Maiden, but Garth Brooks? No, I didn't think so. Jagger was referring to the blank space crooner, 33. See, I don't even know what that is, but yeah, okay, 33, who's in a pickle with music manager Scooter Braun in 2019 when he bought the master recordings of her first 6 albums. Yeah, that's pretty scummy shit. She then decided to re-record her music for her fans as Braun has barred her from performing songs from her back catalog. Yeah, it's pretty fucked. Stones are also back in the music business, having announced their first album of original songs since 2005 called Hackney Diamonds earlier this month. Okay, so that's going to be the new album. And, oh, right, yeah, A Bigger Bang came out in 2005. That was 2005? Yeah, I'm looking at my copy over there, actually. Fucking great album, by the way. Go and check it out if you haven't. If the only thing that you heard off of it was, what was the lead single? Was that Oh No, Not You Again? Or am I just making up my favorite song that's on there? Look What the Cat Dragged In. Oh no, Rough Justice. Rough Justice was the lead single off that. I was just singing it back in my head for a second. But yeah, that was 2005. Holy fuck, man. Time flies, but thank God to live in a time, and we all live in the same timeline that has the Rolling Stones, but regrettably also has Taylor Swift in it. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.